Well, I'll let Irene answer the global problem. I mean, I think that this is an issue that so clearly shows the inseparability of civil and political rights and economic, social, and cultural rights. Oftentimes, as people in this room probably know better than I, you know, women are forced into situations, children are forced even by their parents sometimes out of economic desperation to enter into these conditions where they're virtually put into a kind of slavery, sexual slavery. And once they're in it, because of the violence, because of police corruption, because of the lack of justice, they can't get out, and they're stuck there forever. That's exactly the kind of situation that the Universal Declaration was set up to prevent, because it said both nobody should have that kind of want, people should have freedom from that kind of want that would drive people into this, and they should have you know, freedom from fear, which means they should be able to speak out, they should be able to get police help, they should be able to get assistance. And so I think human trafficking is almost the epitome of what we're really talking about here tonight, which is not an economic and social rights alone campaign, but an indivisibility of all rights campaign that we're fighting for.
Well, this trafficking that we see of human trafficking is again a byproduct of an economic system that focuses on growth, that looks for free movement of capital and ideas and entrepreneurship, but not of labor. So you end up in a situation where labor is not properly regulated, and you're forcing people then into all kinds of systems, exploitative systems, that leads to trafficking. There is a whole story there that has to be told about human rights violations, and I absolutely agree with Larry about the importance of looking at rights as an integrated whole, and not as one set here of economic and social rights and another set there of civil and political rights. You know, when I have traveled on behalf of Amnesty, and I have been to places like Darfur or Congo, where you see, someone mentioned child soldiers, I think, in that question. Child soldiers see women, rape survivors. You know, they ask for protection, they ask for justice, but they also ask for health care and education. From the perspective of the survivor, the needs are holistic. The rights are as one whole for their survival, for their dignity. Now, it makes me very sad that the one convention, the first international convention that actually recognized both sets of rights together, was the Child Rights Convention. And every country in the world has ratified, has signed up to the Child Rights Convention. I'm not saying except two, Somalia and the United States. And I'm not saying that signing up to a convention necessarily means that, you know, those rights are respected, but signing up is the first sign. It's the first indication of political will, and it allows then the others, people, civil society, international community, to hold the government accountable. And this is yet another example where the United States is bucking the trend. And so when we talk about rights of a child, I hope the United States will ratify that convention too.
Thank you. We hope so too. I'm sorry, we're going to have to come to a last question, but this has been a wonderful conversation, and thank you very much for the questions that we've got. One last question for Larry, and then one for Irene. How can we convince Americans to listen to and learn from human rights experiences in other countries when we are so accustomed to seeing ourselves as superior and helping other countries?
Well, we're going to do what we've always done, actually. We're going to tell the stories of human beings. That's the power of Amnesty International, is telling the stories, both of people around the world who have been the victims of human rights violations, and people here in the United States. And we're going to make people, for a moment, see what they have in common, that this is a fellow human being, and there, but for the grace of God, go all of us. That's the power of Amnesty. And that the second part of the power is that we're going to show people that there's something that everybody in this room can do that could make a difference in that individual life. was the power of Amnesty when it first started working on prisoners of conscience. It wasn't just that we told the story of people who were suffering in prison. We could all, you know, feel bad about that. It was to say, and if you take an action, that person can be freed. We're going to do exactly the same work and we're going to continue to do that work forevermore. But we're going to add to it the work of people who, as Irene has described, are in situations that also are an assault on their dignity and freedom. And we're going to say, if we take action on this, those people can be freed from that kind of imprisonment of poverty. And we're going to show it. We're going to demonstrate. And we already have the beginnings of that in the kind of stories that we've been talking about. That's how we're going to do it. And if we can make people begin to see, because in 1961 nobody saw torture. Nobody saw prisons of conscience. It was as invisible as poverty is now. We can make people see it. And once people see it and they know there's something they can do about it, I personally am totally convinced that people will act and we can take an enormous step forward as a human race in finally having a world where this kind of suffering no longer exists.
Well, Irene, we've heard some great challenges here this evening. Perhaps you could leave us with a word of hope. What is your hope for the book that you've written, for the campaign that Amnesty is taking on, so that we can leave here with a sense of where we're going?
Well, you know, when you're a human rights activist, you're a hope monger. You're in the business of selling hope. And let me tell you a little story here about a visit I made to Sydney a few years ago. I went to a high school on the outskirts of Sydney, in one of the poor neighborhoods of Sydney, where mostly refugees and asylum seekers were coming and settling, and there was a detention center nearby. Many of the children in that school had either been in that detention center at some stage or the other, or had relatives who had been there. And I talked to them about being a human rights activist, and I told them about human rights activists being hope mongers. And one little kid put his hand up and said, "Miss, how much does hope cost?"
Well, thank you very much. Well, I think you would agree. This has been both a challenging and I think a hope-filled evening. And I think there is a sense of energy around this campaign that Amnesty and all of us are going to be involved in. So I hope we do leave here with a sense of energy and hope. And thanks to Larry and Irene for their presence here. There are clipboards for you to sign, there are books for you to buy, and there are other people for you to converse with. Let's continue to work together to end poverty and all abuses of human rights and dignity. Good night.
Thank you.